Welcome to the Rewards Master. Today I want to talk to you about one of the hottest new airline cards, what some are considering to be the best high-end credit card for an airline that's available on the market today, which is the Bank of America Alaska Airlines Atmos Summit card. And so is it really everything that it's cracked up to be? Is the hype deserved or is it not? Well, that's what I want to examine with you today. If you please hit the like and subscribe button, we'll look at it together. So recently, Alaska Airlines, after acquiring Hawaiian, has merged their points programs together into what they're calling Atmos rewards. And these Atmos points are still very, very valuable, just like they were when they were Alaskan miles. And it's just a fantastic program. I mean, some of the best redemptions in the points and miles game. I use them all the time. A lot of us transferred over when there was that loophole for a while when you could transfer American Express points over to Hawaiian Airlines and then over to Alaska. A lot of us did that. But one of the problems with Alaska is that it's not really easy to earn points. They just have a few cards so you can get a few sign-up bonuses. The only real transfer partner they have is Bilt, and Bilt is notoriously difficult, especially if you don't rent, to rack up a lot of points. So this card is very interesting. It's a $395 a year annual fee card, and it is their top level airline card. Now, this is kind of one that would compete with the Delta Reserve and the American Airlines Executive, the United Club card. Those are what we call top level airline cards that generally offer some kind of lounge benefit. Well, this one's interesting because it is cheaper than those at $395, and it does offer some lounge benefit, but it's a very limited lounge benefit. You get 8 passes to Alaska lounges every year, broken up into 2 each quarter. Now, you also get like maybe some premier type drinks. I don't even know what they mean by that, but that's supposedly a benefit on your 2 visits every quarter. But that seems awful limited compared to the others. But the reason that people like this card is not because it's a great lounge card. They like this card because it's just different than pretty much every other top level card with an airline on the market, in that the other ones try to give you a whole bunch of credits back, and then, they give you the lounge access, and that's how you value the card. This one's just very different. It doesn't give a bunch of credits back. It just gives some benefits. So the first is it spends like no other card. You get 3x on Alaska and Hawaiian purchases, which is kind of par for the course, but this is where it gets interesting. You get 3x on dining. That is very unique for an airline card. That usually maybe they give 2x on dining. Some don't give any elevated multiplier at all. So that's very good. But then where it just absolutely beats out pretty much every other card in existence is it gives 3x on foreign transaction purchases. So if you're overseas, it's going to give 3x. That is amazing, especially considering that Atmos points are so very, very valuable. So you're getting 3x overseas on all your purchases. It's like basically a general spend category overseas. Now, of course, this is going to be a lot more important and a lot more valuable to somebody who travels a lot, or to an expat who is a U.S. citizen but lives overseas and pretty much spends everything that way. So for those kind of people, I mean, of course, this card is a no-brainer. So what do you get for the $395 fee? Well, you get a path to status with Alaska, and Alaska status is pretty good. It's easy to earn in some ways because you get it even on award flights, even on partner award flights, you get some credit towards it. But this card gives you 10,000 points towards your loyalty every year, towards your status, and it also gives 1 loyalty point for every $2 you spend on the card. So if you're hunting Alaska status, this card is the way to go. I mean, it is a very good status card. There can be no doubt. It gives some of the typical credit card benefits for airline cards. You get free bags and priority check-in and boarding, 20% back on in-flight purchases, all the typical stuff. You get a TSA pre-check or global entry credit. That's kind of common on cards at this level. You also get a rebate to one of the kind of unique but annoying parts of Alaska for the domestic programs, which is they charge a $12.50 non-refundable booking fee. Well, you get that waived if you have this card. So that's, if you do a lot of points redemptions with Alaska, that can add up. That's a nice, not super substantial, but a nice benefit for the card. But the real value prop of this card is that rather than giving you back a bunch of credits for hotels or credits for shopping portals or credits for all sorts of random things like its competitors do, it just gives you a 25,000 point certificate for a companion. So whereas many of its competitors will give a companion certificate on a domestic flight, and usually it's in main cabin, and you got to pay cash for the other ticket. No, this one's very different because it gives a 25,000 point certificate that can also be used as a rebate. So you could be flying, and you have to be flying as the main flyer on points, which is different than its competitors. And then you get a 25,000 point redemption or discount. So that means you can book a business or a first class ticket, and if it's 45,000 points, you're going to get 25,000 off of your companion. That is very, very, very valuable. There can be no doubt. And then it has an incentive to spend a lot of money. If you spend $60,000 on this card in a year, then you get a 100,000 point certificate in addition to the 25,000 point certificate. And that could be amazing. That could be a business class flight to Asia. I mean, you could go to Japan, or you could go to Taiwan, or you could go to a lot of places with that. So that's a very, very valuable benefit. So do I think this card is worth it? Well, that's a hard question. And it's very much a hard question because is it worth it for me? And the answer is no. And the reason is that I don't fly enough on Alaska to be racking up points all the time. I fly on American and I use their points to fly American, but Alaska doesn't fly out of the airports I typically fly out of. So I'm not going to fly on their metal. Secondly, I don't need or really want their status because I have American Airlines status and lounge access with them. So I think there's a lot of folks who are primarily a Delta flyer, primarily American, or primarily United, and this card, they might look at it and say, well, this would be a nice kind of bonus or secondary card or secondary ecosystem. The problem is, though, is the value proposition, although it has an incredible upside, also has a pretty significant downside that I think people aren't considering. And that is that to get your value back, you got to be able to use that certificate, that 25,000 point certificate every year. And to do that, you have to have 25,000 at least Alaska points, Atmos points, to be able to book your own so that you can book a companion with you. And the real issue, that wouldn't be a problem if you could get those points through American Express or through Citibank or even through Chase or even through Capital One. But you can't. The only way to get those points is through spending on this card or spending on Bilt. And Bilt is difficult to rack up a lot of points. They don't have a lot of multipliers. They have one card. And if you don't rent, if you're a homeowner, unless I guess you're with United Wholesale Mortgage coming up, but if you're like most homeowners, there's no way to get any points in that. So you'd have to put a lot of spend on this card in order to get very many points. And your opportunity cost on that are going to be pretty incredible. So it makes sense if you're going to try to do this to put the 60,000 points on the card. But who does that make sense for? I mean, $60,000 on this card is a whole lot of points, a whole lot of sign-up bonuses on other cards. So to me, I just no way that I think in the long term, now for a year or two, yes, but in the long term, I'll be able to consistently earn enough Alaska points to make this card worth it. Now, people are going to say, yeah, but the overseas spending. Well, I've done analysis of our spending. We travel overseas several times a year, but we don't spend all that much. So the 3X isn't going to be that much more than 2X on the Venture X or another 2X earning card overseas. So yes, is this card great? I think so. For some people, especially if you live outside the United States, but you can get this card, wow, it's going to be really good. But for the vast majority of people who have trouble earning Atmos points, I think that its primary value prop is difficult in the long term, not in the first year or the second or maybe even the third, but in the long term, it's difficult to get value from it. Now, it also needs to be said that it does have a sign-up bonus, 80,000 points. That's really good for spending, I think, $4,000 in a 3-month time span. So that would maybe, I mean, if you saved them up, that would maybe last for 3 years. So you could use that companion certificate over and over and over. But as a long-term value prop, to me, it would be difficult. However, in the short term, wow, if you're just going to get it and keep it for a couple, 3 years till you run out of Atmos points and then downgrade or cancel the card, it might be one of the best cards available. Might be, might not be. So I think it really, really depends upon the person. So what do you think about this card? Do you think it's great? Do you think it's great long term? Or like me, do you kind of think it's great for most people on a short-term basis? How much would you actually use that multiplier of 3x overseas? Maybe you use it a lot. Maybe it'd be worth it for that. Let me know in the comments down below. If you would, consider my channel membership, just $2.99 a month. You can cancel anytime. I do dedicated videos for channel members, early release videos. So if you'd consider that, I'd appreciate it. Also, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you here next time.